In college football, rivalries are the heartbeat of the sport. Each one has its own unique history, intensity, and fan culture. From the legendary clashes like Alabama versus Auburn to the emerging powerhouses like Cincinnati versus UCF, I've categorized these matchups to showcase the depth and diversity of rivalries across college football. This breakdown highlights the iconic matchups that shape seasons, stir emotions, and fuel fierce competition. Let's check some of the fiercest college football rivalries. Tier 1. Legendary national rivalries. Alabama versus Auburn. Every year, the state of Alabama turns into a battleground when the Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers square off. The Iron Bowl isn't just tradition, it's power, pride, and postseason dreams wrapped into one game. Both programs rank among the most decorated in NCAA history, and when they meet, bragging rights often come with a spot in the SEC championship. In 2013, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Number 1 Alabama came in undefeated at 11-0, chasing a third straight national championship. Number 4 Auburn, at 10-1, was out to crash the party. It was Nick Saban's war machine against Gus Malzahn's chaos crew. You had A.J. McCarron, polished and deadly accurate, flinging bombs to Amari Cooper. On the other side, Auburn was led by Nick Marshall, a converted defensive back who turned into a highlight reel quarterback, and Trey Mason, who ran like he owed somebody money. The game was pure drama. Alabama went up 21-7, but Auburn refused to fold. Mason gashed Bama's defense. Marshall scrambled and struck. With 32 seconds left, Auburn tied at 28-28. Saban didn't want overtime. He rolled the dice. After a video review added 1 second, Alabama lined up for a 57-yard field goal. The kick fell short. Waiting in the back of the end zone was Chris Davis. He caught it. He started left. Auburn's blockers formed a convoy. Bama's linemen looked like they were running in wet cement. Davis cut across the field, hit the sideline, and never stopped. 109 yards to history. Final score, Auburn 34, Alabama 28. The kick six didn't just end a game, it detonated a dynasty. Auburn took the SEC and went to the national title. Bama fans still hear Rod Bramblett's call in their nightmares. There goes Davis. Auburn's gonna win the football game. And just like that, the rivalry gained its most iconic chapter, Michigan versus Ohio State. Every fall, just after Thanksgiving, the Big Ten turns into a battlefield, and all eyes lock onto the game. Michigan and Ohio State, two football powerhouses, go helmet to helmet in a rivalry that's been cooking since 1897. It's played in either the Big House or the Horseshoe, and it usually comes with playoff dreams and Rose Bowl tickets hanging in the balance. Back in the day, this rivalry was pure fire thanks to the legendary coaching feud between Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes. From 1969 to 1978, these two icons clashed every year in what fans still call the 10-year war. No memes, no social media beef, just old-school hatred and hard-nosed football. Fast forward to 2006, and you get number 1 versus number 2 in what was hyped as the game of the century. Ohio State edged Michigan 42-39 in an instant classic that broke viewership records. The vibes in this rivalry are intense. Ohio State fans tape over every M on campus before game week. Michigan counters with "Beat Ohio" chants echoing across Ann Arbor. There's no middle ground here. You're either maize and blue or scarlet and gray. Even wins come with trophies. Buckeyes get tiny gold pants charms for every W against Michigan. And let's talk drama. In 1995, an unranked Michigan squad ruined OSU's perfect season. In 2016, a controversial double overtime spot handed Ohio State a 30-27 win that fans still argue about like it happened yesterday. Then came the flip. Michigan snapped the streak in 2021 and kept swinging in 2022 and 2023, shifting the rivalry's power once again. Army versus Navy, the game of honor. Every December, while the rest of college football is wrapping up playoff drama, Army and Navy take the stage like it's America's Super Bowl for the soul. First played in 1890, this rivalry isn't about 5-star recruits or NFL draft stock. It's cadets versus midshipmen, future soldiers and sailors suiting up before they suit up for real. This game is packed with traditions so rich it could be bottled and sold at a military museum. There's the March On, where both academies literally march onto the field in full dress uniform. There's Sing Second, where the losing team sings its alma mater first and the winner sings second, a ritual that hits harder than any post-game trophy lift. The matchup is usually played in Philadelphia, sitting right between West Point and Annapolis like neutral ground in a Cold War standoff. Presidents often attend. The Commander-in-Chief's trophy is on the line. But most of all, pride is at stake, not just for the players, but for every veteran watching from around the world. The football, old school and gritty. Think 13-10 score lines, fourth and short scrums, and enough option runs to make the 90s jealous. It's smash mouth, no frills, down to the wire football. In 2016, Army snapped Navy's 14-year win streak, and the reaction? You'd think they just won World War III. It meant that much. No No NIL deals, no Heisman hype, just two groups of young men playing for something bigger. While the rest of the country watches football as entertainment, this game feels like a reminder that win or lose, every guy on that field is going to serve something beyond the scoreboard. Texas versus Oklahoma, the Red River Rivalry. If college football had a state fair fight, Texas and Oklahoma line up in Dallas every October with half the stadium in burnt orange, the other half drenched in Sooner crimson, and a full-blown carnival popping off just outside the gates. There are corny dogs, ROTC cadets running the game ball hundreds of miles, and a giant cowboy hat waiting for the winner. It's chaos. Beautiful, sweaty, deep-fried chaos. First played in 1900, the rivalry hasn't missed a year since 1929. And since 1932, it's lived in the Cotton Bowl, dead center between Austin and Norman. Everything from Big 12 titles to national championship hopes has run through this game. It's not just tradition, it's bragging rights with playoff implications. The stadium split is legendary. It's not a metaphor. It's literally painted down the 50-yard line. One half is ready to party, the other half is praying for a miracle. And sometimes, miracles happen. In 1976, a 6-6 tie left everyone frustrated and suspicious. In more recent years, Oklahoma's gone on a tear, winning 17 of 25 since 2000, even though Texas still leads the all-time series. Legends have been made here. Bob Stoops built his legacy torching the Longhorns. Mac Brown got his defining wins in this game. Baker Mayfield, Sam Ehlinger, Adrian Peterson, Vince Young. The list reads like a Hall of Fame induction night. And let's not forget the Golden Hat, a shiny cowboy trophy that looks like it belongs at a country music awards show. It's goofy, yes, but it means everything. Even with both teams heading to the SEC, this rivalry isn't going anywhere. It's loud, it's mean, and it smells like funnel cake and fear. Welcome to the Red River. Hope you packed earplugs and attitude. USC versus Notre Dame, the jeweled grudge match. This isn't just a game, it's college football's longest distance beef. Over 2,000 miles apart and nearly a century old, USC and Notre Dame have been trading blows since 1926, and it all started with a little persuasion. Legend says USC wanted a national rival, and Knute Rocken's wife got convinced by the promise of California sunshine instead of Midwest snow. One chat later and boom, a coast-to-coast war was born. These two aren't just programs, they're brands. Combine them and you've got 24 national championships and 15 Heisman winners. More hardware than an NFL trophy case. The prize for winning? The jeweled shillelagh, a Gaelic war club decorated with emerald shamrocks for Notre Dame and ruby Trojan heads for USC. Sounds like something out of an RPG, but trust me, players want it. The vibes? Unreal. One year it's under the palm trees in LA, the next it's in South Bend's freezing wind with golden helmets glowing like something out of a movie. Presidents of college football have walked through these gates: Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, Tim Brown, legends who torched defenses and made this rivalry must-watch TV. And let's talk signature moments. The Bush push in 2005. Reggie Bush literally shoving Leinart into the end zone for the win. Controversial? Absolutely. Iconic? Even more. In the 80s and early 90s, Notre Dame ran the show with an 11-game win streak, while the 2000s saw USC clap back, winning 7 straight and wrecking championship dreams. Today, the rivalry still pops. Playoff hopes, Heisman campaigns, bragging rights, all on the line. It's Midwest grit versus Hollywood shine, a tradition dripping with history and swagger. Florida versus Georgia, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Every fall, in the middle of SEC madness, two fan bases meet in Jacksonville for a showdown that feels part football game, part music festival, and part family feud in a stadium. Florida versus Georgia isn't just a rivalry. It's a party with a scoreboard, a neutral site grudge match packed with barking bulldogs, chomping gators, and 70,000 fans who've been tailgating since sunrise. The first official game went down in 1915, though Georgia claims an extra win in 1904. Florida says that one doesn't count. Early access doesn't equal canon. Since 1933, Jacksonville has hosted nearly every matchup, sitting almost perfectly between Athens and Gainesville. It's been SEC East chaos ever since. The stadium literally split in half. One side wears red and black, the other orange and blue, and the noise never really stops. Outside, the scene looks like spring break collided with game day. There's no trophy, just the win, the bragging rights, and the hangover. Historically, Georgia dominated early, but Florida flipped the script in the 90s and early 2000s, turning the rivalry into a Steve Spurrier flex tape. Then, Georgia got spicy again, winning 4 straight from 2021 to 2024, led by NFL caliber squads and a defense that hit like a freight train. The games have featured future legends like Tim Tebow, Herschel Walker, Trevor Lawrence, and Kyle Pitts. It's also seen blowouts, upsets, and momentum shifts that shape the entire SEC playoff picture. Even when both teams aren't elite, the vibe alone makes this game unmissable. It's Florida-Georgia week, which means tailgates, shouting, and someone yelling, "Go Dogs!" through a megaphone at 8 a.m. This isn't just about football. It's an event, a ritual, and a yearly SEC holiday that hits harder than a fourth quarter sack. Miami versus Florida State. Sunshine Show showdowns and wide right nightmares. When Miami and Florida State meet, you don't just get football, you get trauma, talent, and chaos in high definition. These are two programs that ruled the college football world in the 80s and 90s, feeding the NFL like a factory and treating Saturdays like playoff previews. Their first matchup came in 1951, but the fire really caught in the 1980s when both teams were title contenders almost every year. Every snap felt like a job interview for the NFL. You had Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders, Ray Lewis, Charlie Ward, dudes who hit like trucks and ran like cheetahs. The energy? Unmatched. But this rivalry is best known for heartbreak, specifically the kind that goes wide right. In 1991, Florida State lined up for a 34-yard field goal to win the game and stay in the national title hunt. The kick? Wide. Right. In 1992, déjà vu. Same teams, same stakes, same miss. Then again in 2000, and even wide left joined the party later. These weren't just misses, they were career-defining ghosts. Miami fans laughed, FSU fans cried in HD, and yet, the tension never faded. In 1987, Florida State blew a 19-3 lead as Miami came roaring back. FSU went for 2 instead of tying. Bold move didn't work. Final score? 26-25. Instant classic. The all-time series is close. Miami leads 36-33 as of 2024, but the rivalry's power lives in moments, not margins. The stadiums rotate between Tallahassee and Miami, and recruiting wars rage across Florida like political campaigns. This one's gritty. No fancy trophies, just sweat, skill, and stakes. It's missed kicks, miracle comebacks, and one of the rawest rivalries in college football. Michigan versus Michigan State, the backyard brawl with a Paul Bunyan twist. There's sibling rivalry, and then there's whatever this is. Michigan versus Michigan State isn't just a fight for the Paul Bunyan trophy. It's an annual turf war that splits living rooms, tailgates, and office group chats across the entire state. This game doesn't decide who runs Michigan, it decides who owns it. The two schools are less than 70 miles apart, but the vibe couldn't be more different. Michigan is the polished older sibling, Ivy-leaning, history-rich, blue blood energy. Michigan State is the scrappy younger brother with a chip on both shoulders. That dynamic went nuclear in 2007 when Wolverine RB Mike Hart casually dropped the little brother line, and Spartans have been playing like they've had that quote tattooed on their hearts ever since. Signature chaos? Oh, there's plenty. In 2001, Clockgate became folklore after MSU was controversially given an extra second, just enough time to steal the win. In 2015, Michigan had the game in the bag with 10 seconds left. They just had to punt it. Instead, trouble with the snap. MSU scooped it and housed it for one of the most shocking walk-off wins in college football history. Wolverine fans still flinch at the word snap. The series dates back to 1898, but the Paul Bunyan Trophy, a 4-foot lumberjack statue, was introduced in 1953. Since then, Michigan has more wins overall, but MSU dominated the 2000s, flipping the script and making every game feel like a referendum on in-state bragging rights. As of 2024, Michigan leads the all-time series, but that's never the whole story. This game carries national weight, Big Ten playoff impact, and emotional damage that lasts months. It's loud, personal, and full of receipts. Welcome to football's pettiest family reunion. Tier 2, regional blood feuds, major historical and cultural stakes. Oregon versus Oregon State, the platypus punch-up. This one's not about national spotlight or massive playoff stakes. It's about state pride, backyard beef, and a trophy shaped like a confused animal. Ducks versus Beavers, Eugene versus Corvallis. Welcome to the Oregon State rivalry, formerly known as the Civil War, now just pure chaos with a platypus on top. It started way back in 1894 when Oregon State, then called Oregon Agricultural College, shut out Oregon 16-0. Since then, they've met over 120 times, making it one of the oldest rivalries in college football. The campuses are barely 45 miles apart, but the fan bases might as well live on separate planets. Ducks bring Nike drip and high-flying offense. Beavers bring grit, attitude, and a chip the size of the Willamette Valley. For nearly a century, they called it the Civil War, but that name was retired in 2020 for obvious reasons. No new title yet, but the Platypus Trophy, with its duck bill and beaver tail, says everything you need to know. The rivalry has delivered some wild moments. In 2009, Oregon won a thriller to clinch the Pac-10 title. In 2020, Oregon State stormed back in a rainstorm to stun the Ducks 41-38. And in 2022, the Beavers erased a 21-point fourth-quarter deficit without even throwing a pass. Just ground and pound brutality. As of 2024, Oregon leads the series 69-49-10 and has won the last two. But with realignment splitting the teams into separate conferences, Oregon to the Big Ten, OSU left behind in a gutted Pac-12, the future of this rivalry is cloudy. Still, for Oregonians, this isn't just a game. It's Thanksgiving weekend tension, family group chats on fire, and bragging rights for 365 days. Ducks fly, beavers bite, and the platypus just sits there, judging you all. Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl. Forget rankings, forget playoff hopes. When Ole Miss and Mississippi State face off in the Egg Bowl, it's not about national headlines. It's about who runs Mississippi for the next 364 days. It's personal, it's petty, and it's powered by pure spite. These two schools are just 100 miles apart, and their fans treat this game like a full-blown family custody battle. The first matchup was back in 1901, and it's been played every year since 1944, making it one of the oldest uninterrupted rivalries in the country. They introduced the Golden Egg Trophy in 1927 to stop fans from fighting on the field. Spoiler, it didn't really work. Every Egg Bowl feels like someone poured Red Bull into a bonfire. In 1999, it was the pick and the kick. Ole Miss snatched a last-second interception, then drilled the game-winning field goal. In 2007, Ole Miss blew a 14-point lead in the last 8 minutes. MSU stole the win, 17-14. And in 2019, we got the infamous dog pee game. Ole Miss WR Elijah Moore scored a touchdown and celebrated by pretending to lift his leg like a dog. That flagged 15 yards on the patee. Kicker missed. MSU won 21-20. Absolute internet meltdown. Played on or near Thanksgiving, the Egg Bowl turns dining tables into war zones, coaches throw shade, fans light up Twitter, and Mississippi sports radio hits DEFCON 1. Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach turned up the heat, keeping the rivalry spicy even during rebuilding years. As of 2024, Ole Miss leads the series 66-46-6, but the gap never feels safe. Every game writes another chapter of unfiltered Southern football chaos. It's not just a bowl, it's the bowl, and it never disappoints. The Palmetto Bowl, South Carolina versus Clemson. The Palmetto Bowl isn't just a football game, it's the battle for state pride in South Carolina. Every year, South Carolina and Clemson go head-to-head in one of the most intense rivalries in college football, with bragging rights on the line for the entire state. The rivalry, which dates back to 1896, has been filled with drama, memorable upsets, and plenty of wild moments. The game alternates between Clemson's Memorial Stadium and South Carolina's Williams-Brice Stadium, keeping the energy high with passionate home crowds every year. Clemson has traditionally held the edge, leading the all-time series 73-44-4 as of 2025. However, that hasn't stopped South Carolina from pulling off some major upsets, including a huge win in 2022 that snapped Clemson's 40-game home win streak. There's more than just football in this rivalry. The Golden Egg Trophy, given in the early years, has now been replaced by a celebration of the Palmetto State's pride. Rivalries between coaches, players, and fans fill the air with electricity long before game day. South Carolina fans are known for their Tiger Burn, where they torch a massive Clemson Tiger effigy before the game, while Clemson fans host Cocky's Funeral, a mock funeral for the Gamecock mascot. While the rivalry is known for its pageantry and upsets, the 2024 matchup was another exciting chapter in the history of this fierce competition, with South Carolina pulling off a 17-14 win, further proving this game's unpredictability. The Palmetto Bowl is more than just a football game. It's a cultural event that will keep fans talking for the next year. Tennessee versus Florida, the third Saturday in September. If you've ever heard the phrase third Saturday in September, you already know what's coming. It's not just a date, it's a day that sends the SEC into overdrive. Tennessee and Florida meet every fall for a battle that's all about SEC East supremacy, pride, and a ton of drama. This rivalry kicked off in 1916, but it wasn't until the 1990s, when the SEC split into divisions, that it really took off. From 1992 to 2001, either Tennessee or Florida won the SEC East every single year. They weren't just battling for the division, they were often fighting for a shot at the national title. Philip Fulmer and Steve Spurrier turned this into a clash of titans, and every matchup felt like a season-defining moment. Fans of both schools have more than just rivalries. They have bitterness that's been brewing for decades. For Tennessee, it's all about frustration. After Florida dominated the SEC East for years, especially with an 11-game win streak from 2005 to 2015, Vol fans lived in a constant state of Gator hate. Online debates, a battlefield, tailgates filled with Florida sucks chants. Some of the most iconic games came down to the wire. In 1998, Tennessee had a dramatic comeback to clinch a national championship, but Florida wasn't about to let go easily. Even when the teams were rebuilding, the game still had the intensity of a championship fight. The rivalry remains intense today. Florida's held the upper hand recently, but the passion from both fan bases, combined with the history and high stakes, keeps this one a must-watch every fall. Whether it's for playoff hopes or just bragging rights, the third Saturday in September is always explosive. LSU versus Alabama, a rivalry built on power and pride. When you think of college football's most intense showdowns, LSU versus Alabama is a rivalry that always makes the list. This isn't just a football game, it's a battle for dominance in the SEC, a clash that has shaped the national title race for years. Since 1992, when the SEC split into divisions, the annual matchup has often determined the SEC West champion and had huge playoff implications. The rivalry began all the way back in 1895 when LSU beat Alabama 12-6. But the intensity really took off in the 2000s when Nick Saban took over at Alabama in 2007. Coming from LSU, where he had won a national title in 2003, his move to Alabama turned the rivalry into a personal grudge match, raising the stakes to a whole new level. It became more than just teams battling. It was coaches, pride, and legacy clashing every season. One of the most iconic moments came in 2011, with LSU ranked number 1 and Alabama number 2. This game of the century went into overtime with LSU edging out Alabama 9-6 in a defensive slugfest that featured missed field goals and heavy special teams play. The match was a defensive war, with both teams giving it everything they had. Despite Alabama's loss, they were selected for a rematch in the BCS National Championship, where they shut out LSU 21-0. The rivalry didn't cool off after that. Alabama dominated the series for nearly a decade, winning 8 straight from 2012 to 2019. But LSU finally broke through in 2019 with a 46-41 victory thanks to a standout performance from Joe Burrow. These teams don't just play, they shape seasons, turn championship hopes upside down, and give fans a reason to lose their minds year after year. This rivalry is fueled by tradition, talent, and an unrelenting hunger for supremacy. UCLA versus USC, the Battle of LA. When UCLA and USC meet on the field, it's more than just football, it's the battle for Los Angeles. This crosstown rivalry is one of the most heated and historic in college sports, with 12 miles of turf separating these two powerhouses. For Angelenos, this game isn't just about winning, it's about owning the city. The rivalry dates back to 1929, when USC torched UCLA 76-0 in their first matchup. Since then, the Trojans have generally had the upper hand, leading the series 53-34-7. But UCLA has always been lurking, ready to shock, and over the years the Bruins have put their own stamp on this rivalry. The most iconic symbol? The Victory Bell, a 295-pound railroad bell, first awarded in 1939. Every year the winner gets to paint the bell their school color, cardinal red for USC or blue for UCLA, and parade it around campus. It's not just a trophy, it's a citywide bragging right that fuels this rivalry's fire. Signature moments? Plenty. In 1982, UCLA ended USC's dominance with a 20-19 win in the Rose Bowl, and from 1991 to 1998, the Bruins went on an 8-game streak, leaving USC fans grinding their teeth. In 2006, UCLA's 13-9 win crushed USC's national title dreams. Even in more recent years, games like 2012's 38-28 upset showed UCLA's resilience, signaling a shift in power. The rivalry is more than football. It's a cultural spectacle that spills into the streets of LA. Tommy Trojan, USC's statue, is famously wrapped up during rivalry week to prevent pranksters from UCLA. Bonfires, rallies, and game day festivities light up both campuses, fueling animosity and passion. With both teams moving to the Big Ten in 2024, the rivalry remains just as fiery. One of the best in college football, and for LA, it's always the ultimate showdown. Nebraska versus Oklahoma, the battle for the Big 8 and beyond. When you think of Nebraska versus Oklahoma, you're not just thinking of a rivalry, you're thinking of college football royalty. This showdown, which began in 1912, is legendary for its fierce competition, high stakes, and moments that have shaped the sport. For decades, these two teams have fought for the Big 8 crown, with each matchup often deciding the national title. The rivalry reached its peak between the 1950s and 1990s, when Nebraska and Oklahoma dominated college football. Coaches like Tom Osborne, Nebraska, and Barry Switzer, Oklahoma, became legends, leading their teams with innovative offenses and tough defenses. The clash of the wishbone offense against Nebraska's power one made every game a must-watch. These teams weren't just good, They were elite. One of the most iconic moments in this rivalry came in 1971, during what is now known as the Game of the Century. Both teams were undefeated, ranked number 1, Nebraska, and number 2, Oklahoma, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Nebraska edged out Oklahoma 35-31, thanks to a legendary punt return touchdown by Johnny Rodgers, one of the best plays in college football history. This game is still considered one of the greatest ever played. Though the rivalry started to fade after Nebraska left the Big 12 in 2011, the games they played from 1928 to 1997 created memories that still resonate today. Their last major meeting was in the 2010 Big 12 Championship, where Oklahoma won 23-20. Even though they don't play every year anymore, this rivalry still holds a place in college football nostalgia. It's about tradition, respect, and the kind of competition that built the sport's foundation. Nebraska versus Oklahoma isn't just football, it's a part of the sport's soul. Penn State versus Pitt, the Keystone Classic, where bragging rights go head-to-head. When it comes to Pennsylvania football, the rivalry between the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Pittsburgh Panthers is a must-watch. Known as the Keystone Classic, this in-state battle has been electrifying fans since 1893, with each team vying for supremacy across the state. The first meeting saw Penn State shut out Pitt 32-0, but over the years, the rivalry has had its ebbs and flows. The 1920s to 1930s saw Pitt dominate, with a 14-game win streak that seemed like it would never end. Fast forward to Joe Paterno's era, and Penn State stormed back, winning 10 straight games between 1966 to 1975. For decades, this rivalry was a huge part of the college football scene, played in front of packed stadiums every November, often determining bowl spots or national rankings. One of the most iconic moments came in 1981, when number 11 Penn State knocked off number 1 Pitt, ruining their national title hopes. Then, in 2016, after a 16-year hiatus, the rivalry returned in full force. In a wild finish, Pitt pulled off an upset, winning 42-39 at Heinz Field, proving that this rivalry still had plenty of bite. Over the years, the rivalry's drama, iconic coaches like Joe Paterno for Penn State, and heated moments have kept it relevant. Even when it cooled down in the late 1990s due to scheduling issues, the rivalry reignited in 2016 to 2019, with 4 intense games. As of now, there are no games scheduled, but the bragging rights and statewide pride keep fans hoping for more. Whether it's Thanksgiving traditions or fierce debates, Penn State versus Pitt is a rivalry that never really fades. Tier 3, petty, brutal, or underrated wars. Kansas versus Missouri, the border war more than just a game. The Kansas Jayhawks and Missouri Tigers rivalry is one of the most heated and historic in college sports. Known as the Border War, this rivalry dates back to 1891, but its roots go much deeper. It's not just about football, it's about centuries of tension between two states that collided over issues much bigger than sports. The rivalry's bitterness traces back to Bleeding Kansas in the 1850s, when violent battles over whether Kansas would enter the Union as a free or slave state set the stage for decades of animosity. That deep hatred carried into the football field in the 1890s, and it's only gotten more intense since. For over a century, from 1907 to 2011, these teams faced off every year as conference rivals in the Missouri Valley, Big 8, and Big 12. The 1960 Ineligible Bowl is a key moment in this rivalry. Missouri was undefeated and ranked number 1. But Kansas shocked everyone with a 23-7 upset. However, the victory was vacated later due to a player eligibility issue, leaving both schools to argue over who really won that year. This game, and others like it, fueled the intense competition, with fans throwing pranks and trash talk throughout the season. After Missouri left for the SEC in 2012, the rivalry cooled, but it's far from over. The football series will return in 2025, and the basketball games have already resumed, with packed arenas and plenty of drama. Kansas versus Missouri isn't just about winning, it's about state pride, history, and the oldest grudge in the Midwest. Cincinnati versus UCF, a new rivalry with major stakes. When you think about college football rivalries, you might picture old-school classics like Michigan versus Ohio State. But there's a newer showdown that's been making waves: Cincinnati versus UCF. While this rivalry might not have decades of history, it's built on high stakes, dramatic games, and growing animosity. The Bearcats and Knights first clashed in 2015, but the rivalry really picked up when both teams joined the AAC in 2013. Fast forward to 2023, they both made the leap to the Big 12, intensifying the matchup even further. What makes this rivalry so spicy? For one, the games are loaded with conference and national implications. Both teams frequently battled for AAC supremacy, often determining the conference champion. UCF's 2017 unbeaten run and Cincinnati's college football playoff appearance in 2021 highlighted just how crucial these matchups were for postseason dreams. These games weren't just for bragging rights, they were about national rankings and the chance to make history. Signature moments? Oh, they've got plenty. In 2018, ESPN's College Game Day broadcasted live from UCF's campus, a huge nod to how much was on the line. 2019 saw Cincinnati snap UCF's conference dominance with a 27-24 win, while in 2020, the Bearcats pulled off a comeback victory in a top 10 matchup. By 2022, UCF delivered a thrilling comeback win to finally clinch a spot in the AAC championship. This rivalry might be new, but it's already packed with drama. Close games, upset victories, and an escalating hatred between the two fan bases make it a must-watch every season. With Big 12 stakes in the future, don't expect the intensity to die down anytime soon. And there you go, college football's fiercest rivalries as we head into another season. One thing's for sure, these rivalries are far from over. They keep us on the edge of our seats, remind us of the power of competition, and give us plenty to argue about until the next kickoff. Did we miss a rivalry you think deserves more love? Drop it in the comments and maybe we'll cover it in the next deep dive. So, are you ready for the next chapter? Drop a like, hit that subscribe, and let's get ready for more chaos on the gridiron.